The massive Imperial starship hung in Earth's orbit, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Admiral James watched it through the command center's reinforced windows, his weathered face reflecting both concern and determination. The ship was nearly the size of a small city, its metal hull gleaming with an alien sheen that humanity had never seen before. "They're hailing us again," reported Captain Mike from his station. "Same message as before." James nodded, already knowing what the aliens would say. For the past week, the Galactic Empire had been sending the same demand. Earth must submit to Imperial rule or face destruction. They didn't even bother to mask their contempt for what they considered a primitive species. In the United Earth Defense Council chamber, representatives from all nations sat in tense silence. The Imperial ambassador, a tall being with metallic skin, stood at the center of the room, his posture radiating arrogance. "Your species has two choices," the ambassador announced, his universal translator converting his words into flat, emotionless English. "Accept Imperial rule and become productive members of our society, or resist and be crushed. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Choose wisely." General Robert, Earth's military commander, stepped forward. His voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "Ambassador, we've reviewed your demands. We've also studied your empire's history of conquering other worlds. Our answer remains the same. Earth will not surrender." The ambassador's metallic features twisted into what might have been a smile. "You don't understand. We've conquered 1,000 worlds. None have successfully resisted." "Then let us be clear," Robert replied. "We're not like the other worlds you've conquered. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting itself, perfecting the art of war. We've developed weapons you can't imagine. This is your final warning. Leave our solar system, or face the consequences." The ambassador laughed, the sound like grinding gears. "Threats? From primitives who've barely reached their moon. Your species truly is delusional." In orbit, the Imperial fleet grew larger each day. Their massive ships took position around Earth, confident in their superior technology. They didn't notice the small satellites that Earth had been launching, dismissing them as primitive communication devices. At the military command center, James watched the tactical display showing hundreds of Imperial ships. "They really don't believe us, do they?" "No, sir," Mike answered. "Their scans show they're not even running their shields at full power. They think this will be easy." James shook his head. 200 years of nuclear deterrence, space warfare research, and quantum weapons development. We tried to warn them. The Imperial deadline for surrender arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Their ships moved into attack formation, preparing to demonstrate their power by destroying a few major cities. They never got the chance. Earth's quantum defense grid activated. Thousands of seemingly primitive satellites revealed their true nature, linking together to form an energy web that human scientists had spent decades perfecting. The Imperial ships suddenly found their advanced systems failing, their weapons powerless against shields they hadn't known existed. "Send the message one last time," James ordered. Through every communication channel, Earth broadcast its final warning. "You were told to leave. You chose not to listen. What happens next is your responsibility." The Imperial commander's response was predictable. "Your tricks cannot harm us. Prepare to." His transmission cut off as the first wave of Earth's defense systems engaged. Quantum torpedoes, designed to bypass any known shielding, struck the Imperial flagship. The massive ship, believed to be invincible, split in half like paper in a storm. Panic spread through the Imperial fleet. Their weapons, designed to overcome conventional shields, proved useless against Earth's quantum defense grid. Their tactics, successful against 1,000 other worlds, fell apart against humanity's centuries of warfare experience. In the Defense Council chamber, General Robert watched the battle unfold. "Send word to all Earth forces. Operation Firewall is now active. Show them why we warned them to run." The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire as humanity demonstrated why it had tried to avoid this war. The Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson. They weren't the first to try conquering Earth, and like all those who had come before, they would fail. The first battle of the war lasted less than an hour. When it was over, half the Imperial fleet was destroyed, and the rest were retreating in disarray. It was just the beginning, but the message was clear. Humanity would not be conquered. 3 days after the first battle, Admiral James stood before the United Earth Defense Council, delivering his report. The holographic displays showed the debris of Imperial ships still orbiting Earth, a testament to humanity's unexpected victory. "They'll be back," he stated firmly. "The Empire has never faced defeat before. Their pride won't let them accept this outcome." He was right. Deep in Imperial space, the High Command was in chaos. Admiral Stone of the Imperial forces paced before the Imperial War Council, his metallic skin dulled with stress. "Impossible," he roared. "Their weapons shouldn't exist. No primitive species could develop quantum-based technology." The Imperial War Master leaned forward on his throne. "Explain how our mighty fleet was defeated by these humans." Stone brought up the battle recordings. "They let us think they were weak. Those satellites we ignored. They formed a weapon grid more advanced than anything we've encountered. And their ships," he paused, struggling with the humiliation. "They're smaller than ours but faster. They fight like swarms of insects, striking from multiple directions." "Enough excuses," the War Master declared. "Ready the first Armada. We will crush these humans with overwhelming force." Back on Earth, preparations were underway. In the hidden shipyards beneath the Pacific Ocean, humanity's real fleet was taking shape. Captain Mike walked alongside James, inspecting the new vessels. "The Empire only saw our defensive forces," Mike said, gesturing to the sleek warships. "They have no idea what we've been building down here." James nodded. "Humanity learned long ago. Never show your full strength in the first battle. Let them underestimate us one more time." The warning came at midnight. Long-range sensors detected a massive Imperial fleet entering the solar system. This was no simple invasion force. It was the legendary First Armada, never defeated in 10,000 years of Imperial conquest. In orbit around Mars, Earth's automated defense platforms activated. The Empire had expected to find a weakened enemy, desperately rebuilding their defenses. Instead, they found an entire planet ready for war. The First Armada's commander, Lord Rex, watched with disdain as his fleet approached Mars. "Their defenses are scattered. They're trying to protect too much territory with too few resources." His tactical officer nodded in agreement. "They can't possibly defend both Earth and Mars. Our victory is assured." The first shot of the second battle wasn't fired by the massive Imperial dreadnoughts. Instead, the surface of Mars itself seemed to come alive. Hidden bases, buried under red sand for years, revealed artillery positions that no Imperial scan had detected. "Impossible," Lord Rex shouted as the first wave of quantum torpedoes struck his fleet. "Mars is supposed to be a dead world." The Empire had fallen for humanity's trap. While they focused their scans on Earth, Mars had been transformed into a fortress world. As Imperial ships scrambled to raise shields, Earth's real fleet emerged from hidden bases on Mars' moons. Captain Mike commanded one of the lead ships. "All vessels, execute Battle Plan Thunder. Show them what Earth's children can do." Earth's warships were unlike anything the Empire had seen. Where Imperial ships were massive and powerful, human vessels were small, agile, and packed with weapons that ignored Imperial shields completely. They struck from multiple angles, using Mars' gravity to slingshot around the planet at speeds the Imperial ships couldn't match. Lord Rex watched in horror as his perfect formation fell apart. How are they predicting our moves? How do they know our tactics? The answer was simple. Humanity had spent centuries fighting itself, developing strategies that the Empire, used to easy victories, had never needed to learn. In the chaos of battle, James's voice came over the command channel. "Execute Phase 2. Hidden weapons platforms on Mars moons activated, catching the Imperial fleet in a crossfire. The First Armada, pride of the Empire, found itself trapped between Mars' defenses and Earth's mobile fleet. The battle lasted longer than the first, but the outcome was the same. The First Armada, undefeated for 10,000 years, broke apart under humanity's assault. Lord Rex, watching his fleet burn, finally understood the truth. The humans hadn't been exaggerating their warnings. As the remaining Imperial ships fled, leaving their dead and wounded behind, humanity proved something else. They were not cruel victors. Earth vessels moved among the wreckage, rescuing Imperial survivors, showing mercy that the Empire had never shown to its victims. The message was clear. Humanity could win this war, but they'd prefer to end it peacefully. The choice, once again, belonged to the Empire. The Imperial War Council chamber was deadly silent. Two major defeats had shaken the Empire's confidence for the first time in thousands of years. The War Master's throne, normally bright with power, seemed dimmer than usual. "We lost the First Armada," he said, each word dripping with rage. "The humans not only defeated our best fleet but showed mercy to our survivors. This is unacceptable." Admiral Stone, now in command after Lord Rex's capture, stepped forward. "My lord, we've analyzed their tactics. They don't fight like a proper military force. They use unconventional methods." "Explain," demanded the War Master. Stone activated a holographic display showing Earth's ships in action. "They fight like raiders, like pirates, small ships attacking from multiple angles, refusing to meet us in proper battle formation. And their AI systems." He paused, struggling to admit the truth. "They're far more advanced than ours." The War Master stood, his metallic form towering over the council. "Then we will show them what real Imperial power means. Mobilize everything. Every ship, every soldier. We will crush these humans with pure force." On Earth, the mood was cautiously optimistic but prepared. In the Underwater Command Center, Admiral James reviewed reports from the front lines. The rescued Imperial soldiers had provided valuable intelligence, many of them shocked by human medical technology and treatment. "They're coming back," Captain Mike reported, entering the command center. "All our deep space sensors show massive fleet movements. They're stripping their outer worlds of defenses." James nodded, unsurprised. "They still think quantity will overcome quality. Are our new weapons ready?" "Yes, sir. The AI-enhanced drone swarms are deployed. The Empire has no idea what's coming." The Imperial attack began with overwhelming force. Thousands of ships jumped into the solar system, their numbers darkening space itself. The Empire expected to find Earth's forces split between protecting their homeworld and their Mars base. Instead, they found nothing. "Where are they?" Stone demanded, scanning the empty space around Mars. "Their bases, their weapons, everything is gone." The answer came in the form of thousands of small, fast-moving objects appearing on their sensors. The Imperial fleet had brought their entire military might to crush Earth's conventional forces, but humanity had changed the rules of engagement. Drone swarms, each unit smaller than a fighter but controlled by advanced AI, swarmed through the Imperial formation. Their quantum weapons ignored shields, their tiny size made them almost impossible to hit, and their AI controllers could react faster than any organic pilot. "This isn't war," Stone shouted as his ships tried and failed to fight enemies they could barely target. "This is not how civilized species fight." His complaints were interrupted by new alerts. Earth's actual warships had appeared behind the Imperial fleet, cutting off their retreat. They'd used the drone swarm as a distraction to execute a perfect flanking maneuver. James's voice came over all frequencies. "Imperial fleet, you are surrounded. Your tactics are predictable because you've never needed to change them. We offer you one last chance to surrender." The Empire's response was predictable. They charged forward, trying to break through to Earth. Their massive ships, designed for grand battles between equal forces, proved to be perfect targets for humanity's asymmetric warfare. In the command center, Mike watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They still don't understand. After all these centuries of easy victories, they never learned to adapt. The battle turned into a slaughter. Imperial ships, unable to cope with both AI-driven drones and human tactical innovations, fell by the hundreds. Their rigid command structure, unable to adapt to rapidly changing situations, began to break down. Stone watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. The Empire had expected to fight a conventional war against a younger species. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that had turned warfare into a science that had spent centuries preparing for exactly this kind of conflict. As the battle wound down, with Imperial ships either destroyed or surrendering, the War Master received a message that would shake the Empire to its core. Human forces had been spotted near several Imperial core worlds. While the Empire had gathered its forces for one massive attack, humanity had launched its own offensive. The war was no longer just about defending Earth. Humanity was taking the fight to the Empire itself. The third major battle was over, but the real war was just beginning. The Imperial capital world of Prime was in chaos. Emergency alarms blared through its crystal spires as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships had been spotted in dozens of systems, striking Imperial bases and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. In the Imperial Palace, the War Master received increasingly desperate messages. "My lord," a communications officer reported, "we've lost contact with the mining colonies in Sector 7. The humans, they're not just defending anymore. They're hunting us." Meanwhile, deep in Imperial space, the Earth battleship Thunder struck another target. Admiral James stood on its bridge, watching as precision strikes disabled the Imperial shipyards. Unlike the Empire's strategy of total destruction, human forces targeted military installations while avoiding civilian casualties. "Sir," Captain Mike reported, "Imperial reinforcements are 8 minutes out, but we've achieved our objective here." James nodded. "Execute jump protocol. Let's show them another human trick." The Thunder disappeared in a flash of quantum energy, using technology the Empire had thought impossible, controlled short-range jumps inside a star system. By the time Imperial ships arrived, the humans were long gone, leaving behind another crippled military installation. On Prime, the War Master faced growing unrest. Representatives from various Imperial worlds demanded answers. A planetary governor, his hologram flickering with static, spoke what many were thinking. How can these humans strike anywhere in our territory? How do they know where to hit us? The answer became clear as more reports arrived. Human special forces, using stealth technology far beyond Imperial understanding, had infiltrated key worlds months ago. They'd mapped defense systems, studied patrol patterns, and identified critical weaknesses in the Empire's supposedly impregnable defenses. Back on Earth, the United Defense Council reviewed the war's progress. General Robert presented the latest statistics. "Our hit-and-run tactics are working. The Empire's trying to defend everything at once, spreading their forces thin. They still haven't adapted to our warfare style." In Imperial space, another battle demonstrated the difference between the two forces. An Imperial defense fleet, protecting a vital supply hub, faced just 3 human ships. The Imperial commander, following standard doctrine, formed his 20 ships into a perfect battle line. The human vessels didn't even try to match formation. They split up, attacking from multiple vectors, their quantum drives allowing them to jump in and out of battle faster than the Imperial ships could turn. Their smaller size, originally dismissed by the Empire as a weakness, proved to be a crucial advantage in close-quarter combat. "Form up," the Imperial commander ordered. "Maintain formation. Follow proper battle protocols." But there was no proper protocol for dealing with ships that could appear behind you, fire, and vanish before your weapons could lock on. The Empire's mighty warships, designed for grand fleet battles, found themselves being picked apart by opponents who refused to fight properly. The turning point came when Imperial citizens began seeing the difference between human and Imperial tactics. While Imperial forces leveled entire cities to eliminate resistance, human strikes were surgical, avoiding civilian casualties. While the Empire demanded absolute loyalty, humans offered peaceful surrender terms and treated prisoners with respect. On an Imperial colony world, a local official made a decision that would change the war. Watching human forces disable military targets while carefully avoiding civilian areas, he contacted their commander. Why? He asked simply. Why show such restraint when you clearly have the power to destroy us? The human commander's response was transmitted across the planet. Because we remember being the weaker side. We remember fighting against those who would dominate us. We fight not because we want to, but because you gave us no choice. We show mercy because that's what makes us human. The message spread across Imperial space. Worlds that had lived in fear of Imperial reprisal began to see an alternative. Some began secretly providing intelligence to human forces. Others quietly prepared for independence. The Empire, built on fear and overwhelming force, found itself facing an enemy that wielded not just superior technology and tactics, but also something more powerful, the moral high ground. As the fourth phase of the war ended, the Empire faced a terrible realization. They weren't just losing battles, they were losing the hearts and minds of their own people. The question was no longer if they would lose, but how much more they would sacrifice before accepting the inevitable. Humanity had changed the game, and the Empire was still playing by the old rules. The War Master stood in his private chambers on Prime, watching holographic displays of yet another defeat. His metallic skin had dulled from its former shine, showing the strain of continuous losses. But it wasn't the military defeats that troubled him most. It was the latest intelligence report. Impossible, he whispered, reading it again. How can they be so unpredictable? The Empire's best strategic AI had failed to anticipate human actions. Every prediction, every calculated response, every strategic model had proven wrong. Humans didn't follow any pattern the Empire could understand. In a secure briefing room on Earth, Admiral James explained this very advantage to Earth's military council. The Empire built their entire civilization on logic and predictability. Their AI systems can't handle human creativity and improvisation. Their biggest mistake, Captain Mike added, was thinking we were primitive because we're emotional. They never understood that our emotions, our creativity, our imagination, these are our greatest weapons. The Empire's frustration reached new heights when they intercepted details about Earth's military training. Their soldiers weren't just taught to follow orders. They were encouraged to think independently, to adapt, to improvise. Every human ship captain had authority to make battlefield decisions without waiting for commands. On an Imperial battlefront, this difference became devastatingly clear. An Imperial fleet commander watched in confusion as human ships began broadcasting. Music. What are they doing? He demanded. This makes no tactical sense. The humans were playing Flight of the Valkyries across all frequencies while executing complex attack patterns. It served no military purpose except one: psychological warfare. The Imperial crews, trained to follow strict protocols, couldn't comprehend an enemy that turned battle into performance art. They're not just fighting us, reported an Imperial psychologist. They're mocking us. They're treating war like it's a game they're enjoying. The Empire's response was to create more complex battle computers, more rigid protocols, more detailed strategic models. They couldn't understand that this only made them more predictable. A turning point came during the battle for the Centauri Crossroads. Imperial forces, following their tactical computers' perfect calculations, set up an ambush for Earth's fleet. Their trap was flawless, based on all known laws of strategy. The humans sprung the trap, then turned it into their own victory by doing something no computer would ever suggest. They weaponized an asteroid field, using quantum tows to turn space rocks into projectiles, while their ships danced through the chaos like it was choreographed. "This isn't war," the Imperial commander protested as his perfect formation shattered. "This is madness." "No," James replied over the comm channel. "This is humanity. We turned chaos into art, uncertainty into advantage. That's what you never understood." The Empire's leadership finally faced a horrifying truth. Humans hadn't been fighting at full strength. They'd been holding back, testing responses, learning the Empire's ways while revealing only fragments of their true capabilities. In the Imperial War Council, Admiral Stone presented his findings. They're not just a warrior species. They're something worse. They're innovators. Every defeat teaches them. Every battle makes them stronger. They don't just adapt. They evolve. The War Master, his confidence finally shaken, asked the question nobody had considered. What else are they hiding? What other weapons have they kept in reserve? The answer came in the form of reports from Imperial worlds. Human cultural influence was spreading. Imperial citizens were beginning to question the rigid structures of their society. They were learning to think differently, to question, to imagine. This was humanity's true hidden weapon, not their technology or tactics, but their ideas. The concept that rules could be challenged, that authority should be questioned, that individuals could think for themselves. In Earth's command center, James watched the reports of spreading dissent throughout the Empire. They thought we would be easy to conquer because we're divided, because we question everything, because we don't all think alike. And that's exactly why they can't beat us, Mike concluded. Our greatest strength is that there is no single way to be human. The Empire had started this war believing they were facing a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves against an enemy who had turned unpredictability into a science, chaos into strategy, and individuality into strength. As the fifth phase of the war ended, the Empire finally understood. They weren't just fighting human weapons. They were fighting the human spirit itself. The Imperial Palace on Prime had lost its gleaming splendor. Emergency shields cast a dark red glow over the once brilliant crystal spires. Inside the War Council chamber, the War Master faced the bitter truth. Half the Empire's worlds had either fallen to human forces or declared independence. "We cannot lose," he declared, his voice echoing in the half-empty chamber. Many council members had already fled. "We are the Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years." Admiral Stone, now bearing battle scars on his metallic skin, dared to speak. "My lord, the humans have surrounded our core systems. Their ships appear and disappear at will. Our defense grids are failing. Perhaps we should consider their peace terms." "Never." The War Master's fist shattered his throne's armrest. "Ready the extinction fleet. We will show these humans what happens when we stop holding back." On the Earth ship Thunder, Admiral James received the intelligence report with grim determination. "They're activating the extinction fleet, just as our spies warned." Captain Mike studied the data. Planet-killing weapons. They're willing to destroy their own worlds rather than lose them to us or the independence movement. "Then we have no choice," James replied. "Activate Protocol Omega. All ships, prepare for the final battle." The Empire's extinction fleet emerged from its hidden dock, 1,000 massive ships carrying weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. The War Master had decided if he couldn't rule the galaxy, he would burn it. But humanity had anticipated this. As the extinction fleet formed up, something unexpected happened to their command and control systems. Throughout the Empire, hidden quantum viruses activated, created by Earth's best cyber warriors who had spent months infiltrating Imperial networks. "What's happening?" The War Master watched in horror as his mighty fleet's systems began failing. "How did they get past our firewalls?" The answer was simple. While the Empire had focused on building bigger weapons, humanity had mastered the art of digital warfare. Their viruses weren't just programs. They were evolving AI constructs that adapted to every defense. James's voice broadcasted across all Imperial frequencies. "You built your empire on fear and control. Everything automated, Everything connected, everything predictable. Did you really think we wouldn't use that against you? The battle for Prime began with the Empire fighting its own malfunctioning automated defenses. Human ships appeared inside the capital system, their quantum drives allowing them to bypass the standard defense lines completely. In orbit above Prime, the War Master watched his perfect order crumble. The extinction fleet, mighty enough to destroy planets, couldn't even target the smaller, faster human ships that danced between their massive forms. Fight properly, he screamed over the command channel. Form ranks. Follow protocols. But there were no protocols for this kind of warfare. Human vessels ignored traditional space combat rules, using maneuvers that Imperial tactical computers classified as impossible or suicidal. Yet they worked. The decisive moment came when human forces didn't target the Imperial ships at all. Instead, they struck at the command and control centers on Prime itself. Special forces teams, dropped from stealth ships, infiltrated the Imperial palace. In his command center, the War Master saw his options vanishing. The humans had disabled his fleet, invaded his palace, and turned his own automated defenses against him. But worse, they'd done something he never expected. They'd offered mercy to any Imperial forces that surrendered. Why? He demanded when human soldiers finally reached his chamber. Why show mercy when you could destroy us completely? Admiral James, entering the chamber personally, provided an answer. Because that's the difference between your empire and humanity. You rule through fear. We lead through hope. The last battle ended not with the destruction of the empire, but with its transformation. The War Master, faced with the complete failure of everything he believed in, finally gave the surrender order. As human forces secured the Imperial palace, James looked out over the capital city. Emergency shields faded, revealing the sun rising over Prime's crystal towers. The Empire's last stand had failed not because of superior weapons or tactics, but because they never understood their fundamental mistake. They had started a war with a species that had turned warfare into an art form, that had mastered not just the science of fighting, but the psychology of victory, that had learned to use an enemy's strength against itself. The last stand of the Empire became the first day of a new era in galactic history. 1 year after the Empire's surrender, the former Imperial palace had transformed. Gone were the imposing security barriers and automated defense systems. In their place stood open gardens where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered freely. Admiral James, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the new Galactic Federation, walked through these gardens with the former War Master, who had become an unlikely ally in building a new future. I still don't fully understand, the former War Master admitted, his once bright metallic skin now showing a more natural patina. How did you defeat us so completely? James smiled. We didn't just defeat you. We changed you. That was our real victory. Inside the Federation Council chamber, Captain Mike presented the latest reports. Worlds that had once lived in fear of Imperial retribution were now thriving. The rigid Imperial technology was being replaced by human innovations that emphasized creativity and adaptability. The biggest change, Mike explained to the gathered representatives, isn't in our weapons or defenses. It's in how we think about power itself. The Empire's former colonies had learned from humanity's example. Instead of building massive warships, they developed flexible defense systems. Instead of enforcing obedience, they encouraged innovation. The galaxy was transforming from a realm of fear into one of possibilities. But the change wasn't one-sided. Humanity had learned from the Empire too. The precision and efficiency of Imperial administration, when freed from its rigid military focus, proved valuable in organizing the new Federation. Former Imperial officers, their minds open to new ways of thinking, became some of the strongest advocates for reform. In Earth's underwater command center, now serving as a training facility for the Federation's combined fleet, General Robert watched ships from 100 worlds practicing together. They're learning fast, He observed as alien vessels executed complex maneuvers alongside human ships. They're starting to understand that strength comes from adaptation, not just power. The former imperial worlds had discovered something unexpected in defeat: freedom. Without the Empire's strict controls, species that had been subjugated for millennia began developing their own unique approaches to technology, governance, and culture. Trade routes that had once carried imperial warships now transported ideas, art, and innovations. The Empire's fall had unleashed a renaissance across the galaxy. In orbit above Prime, the Thunder, now a Federation flagship, hosted a delegation of young officers from former imperial worlds. James showed them the ship's bridge, so different from the rigid command centers they were used to. "Your stations aren't fixed," one young officer noted. "Everything can be reconfigured." "Exactly," James replied. "In battle, in peace, in life. Adaptation is survival." The greatest change was in how species viewed each other. The Empire had enforced a strict hierarchy, with some races deemed superior to others. The Federation eliminated these distinctions, recognizing that diversity bred strength. Even the former War Master had changed. Working alongside humans, he'd learned to value unpredictability and innovation. "We thought we were teaching order to a chaotic galaxy," he reflected. "Instead, you taught us that chaos itself can be a kind of order." The transformation wasn't always smooth. Some former imperial worlds struggled with their new freedom. Others tried to cling to the old ways. But humanity's example showed them a different path. In the Federation Council's final session of the year, representatives voted to establish the Galactic Academy of Innovation, a place where species could share not just technology, but ways of thinking. The Empire's greatest flaw, James told the Council, wasn't its weapons or its tactics. It was its fear of change. "We didn't just win a war. We won the right for everyone to grow, to change, to become something new." As the session ended, the former War Master approached James with a question that had bothered him for months. "Did you know? When you first warned us to run, did you know how it would end?" James looked out at the stars visible through the council chamber's crystal dome. "We knew we could win the war," he answered. "But this—" He gestured at the diverse group of representatives talking, laughing, and sharing ideas. "This is better than victory. This is evolution." The galaxy had learned humanity's greatest lesson. True strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the courage to change. The war that began with a warning had ended with a gift. The gift of freedom to become something more than anyone had imagined possible.